Okay, Jules, we are going to focus on three lines of the poem Dog by Valerie Worth. If you look at the screen, I have the three lines that we're going to focus on highlighted in gray. Sleeps all afternoon in his loose skin. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a language dive. I don't know if you did this last year in third grade, but we're just going to look at these three lines and we're going to talk a little bit about the language of it. So, not sure last year if you talked about subject and predicate, but the subject of a sentence is what the sentence is about. The predicate is what that subject is doing. So, if you look at these, before we kind of examine if there's a subject and a predicate here, just look at we're going to talk about the meaning of these lines. So just for, I didn't highlight very well. We're going to talk about just this first part, sleeps. So who do you think sleeps is about in this poem? Well, if you're thinking or said dog, of course, absolutely. What makes you think that? Because this poem is about a dog, right? It's mentioned in the second line right here. So what is the dog doing? Sleeping. He sleeps. So let's look at the next part, which is all afternoon. So now, when does the dog sleep? All afternoon. What I want you to do is look on page 16 of your workbook. You will see a page that looks like this. And I want you to sketch a clock that shows all afternoon. I'll pause the video so you can just sketch a clock that shows all afternoon and what that would look like on a clock. Like, look on the wall at our clock and it starts at 12. And then the dog's sleeping from all afternoon. Shade in how long do you think he slept? So what did you shade of your clock? So afternoon is really about 12 p.m., about lunchtime, noon, until about 6 o'clock. So if you shaded in somewhere in there, you were pretty much on the right track. So let's look at the next part of this poem. So the dog sleeps all afternoon in his loose skin. So what images do you have in your head now about a dog and loose skin? So what it's telling me, and you may be thinking the same thing, is that this dog is some kind of dog that has loose skin. I know you've seen dogs that have loose skin. It's probably maybe it's like sagging and wrinkling around him. Again, more imagery, right? So now that you have like an image in your head of what the dog is doing, a predicate. A predicate is what the subject is doing. In these three lines, do we see a subject? We know the subject is dog. It's up here further. But you don't see a subject here in these three lines. This is just the predicate. This is just what the subject, who's the dog, is doing. He's sleeping all afternoon in his loose skin. So if you look on page 16 of your workbook, the next box says, sketch how the dog sleeps in his loose skin. So take just a quick minute to sketch that out. All right, so oops, sorry. So if you notice, in the next box it says sleeps all afternoon in his loose skin, and they're saying to underline the predicate in blue. What is he doing? He sleeps all afternoon in his loose skin. So to me, the whole thing is the predicate. You can skip that part. But look in the next box. Write your prose version. Underline the subject in red and the predicate in blue. Remember the difference between prose and poetry. Prose does not rhyme. It has no rhythm or meter to it, right? It's just if you are writing a story. So in the poem, there's no subject in these three lines. So if Valerie Worth wanted to write these three lines as prose in a regular story, what would she have to add? She'd have to add the subject. So what I want you to do is take a quick minute and write a prose version of just these three lines in that last box, and then underline the subject in red and the predicate in blue. If you should have markers at your desk. You can share those or color pencils. Just do that really quickly. All right, so you may have written different versions of this, but if you're going to write the prose version of those three lines, you need a subject. So all you need to do is add the dog, and then of course all afternoon, all and in would need to be lowercase. So if you notice the dog, there's our subject. What does the dog do? Sleeps all afternoon in his loose skin. It's just that simple. So now we have a complete sentence that is actually prose that compares to the poem. If you have any questions on this, you can definitely post some questions in Google Classroom for me, or I'm sure Miss Beard might be able to help. Well, not might. Miss Beard will be able to help you. And it's not very difficult at all. All we did was we added a subject to those 3 lines. And so now that actually gives us clues about our theme. So flip back to page 15. If you look right in the middle of the page, it says theme. I want you to write, what do you think the theme of dog is? And then go ahead and take a few minutes and put your supporting details. How do you know? What do you think the theme of this is? And what's one detail that supports it? And then another detail to support it. So go ahead and jot that down. So Miss Beard, if you want to have some students share their themes, you can, but pause the video if you'd like to and have them share their themes. Here's the example themes that, not the examples themes, but here's the sample that I was given. So basically the theme of this poem that the author Valerie Worth is trying to give us is dogs have a good, almost enviable life. What do you notice about this word enviable? If you look at it, I-N-V-I, you have envy, right? Try to write on this. I don't know if it's going to work. It's kind of thick. If you envy something or someone, let's try this. There we go. If you envy someone or something, what do? You are jealous of them, right? So in other words, dogs lead a good life that we might even be jealous of because they get to sleep all day and we don't. Although I don't know if I'd want to sleep all day, but anyway, so what are some details to go with that? So she uses things like yawns and rests his long chin carefully between front paws. He suggests, so the dog's very relaxed. He is chillaxinating. And then also the lack of rhyme or meter makes the poem feel very relaxed, as though she wants us to feel relaxed like the dog is. So there we go. There's your theme and your 2 details. Now, you might have had different details, and feel free to, Miss Beard, to pause the video, and you can share some of the some supporting details that the students had.